Hello and Happy New Year, my crafty friend. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's junk journal video, flip through video. Boy, I'm out of practice. It's been a while since I've shared a crafty project with you, and that's just because I got so busy with other parts of my life after a trip to Los Angeles that came up at the end of October last year. Feels weird to say last year about something that was just a few months ago. And yeah, and it's just kind of taken me a while to get back into the groove of crafting. So I wanted to wait to make a video at a time when I had something truly exciting to share with you. I feel like the last journal I made, the Book of Light, the Book of Shadows, which is kind of a witchy tarot oracle themed book that's like 2 books in one. I poured so much time and energy and love into that one that it felt kind of like, I can't top this. I can't top it. So what do you follow something that you feel is your best work with? But while I was going through my materials and kind of thinking about what might I do next, I was struck by the idea to do some of what in the fashion world they might call power clashing. So putting purples with pinks and greens and browns and other purples and some blues in there for good measure. And I have come up with this big boy. I'm just going to zoom out so you can hopefully see the whole thing in frame, or as close as possible to the whole thing in frame. So yeah, I felt like I will follow my witchiest of books with my most opulent of fabric collage covered books. So this is something very different from anything I've made before, and I'm really excited about how the cover specifically has come together. So it has this stunning piece of embroidered floral trim, kind of cascading down the front, wrapped slightly around the edge, and then the back is this beautiful vintage doily that also serves as kind of a wrap closure, but it is permanently attached, so you don't have to worry about losing your closure. So first, instead of doing a tassel for this book, I made a really pretty crystal charm on a clip. Those of you who are familiar with my work, welcome back. And those who are new here, welcome. You may or may not know that my other passion in crafting is making crystal and gemstone jewelry, like the bracelets I'm wearing today. And so I love to include a mystical, healing sort of a crystal in every journal that I make. So for this one, it's this gorgeous raw amethyst. I'm so glad the sunlight started kind of coming in as I was showing this so you can see all the beautiful facets. This is completely untreated except for the hole drilled in to make it a bead, but it has just such stunning inner light play with kind of a bohemian bead and the little brass bead. So yeah, you can either keep this on your journal if you buy the journal, or you could use that to, you know, clip wherever you like. I like to clip these actually to a purse to make it like a piece of ornamentation on, yeah, on a fashion accessory. But anyway, I sewed a vintage button that was actually a gift from my grandmom right onto this doily using some purple thread. And then the way I made the cover was I actually glued this down on the back and left it open on the front so that when the journal is open, it just sits like this. And you have this kind of cool round doily, like a placemat or like a frame for your journal. And I adore the color purple. It's my mom's favorite color. My mom has made it very clear to me that she does not want a junk journal. She's not the type of person who would sit down and do any journaling. So she's told me not to waste my crafting on her. But if I were to make a journal for my mom, this is what it would look like. purples and purples and purples. So yeah, once the doily is open, the cover is this really cool vintage purple kind of abstract swirly fabric. It looks almost like a batik print. And this was from my grandmom's fabric collection. She's kind of been cleaning out her fabric room and giving me all the goodies like the buttons and the fabrics. So I attached a purple sari trim rose to the top just to give it a little bit more sparkle. And then did a pocket right here out of sari trim. And so I left that empty just because I like the way the cover looks as it is. But this would be a great place to put a little pad of paper, maybe your pens and pencils so that everything is in one place, or whatever else you might like to carry with you in your journal. Opening it up, I love this trim. This sequin trim is one of my splurge items from 2022 that I bought and didn't really know what I would do with it, but it is just the perfect size to make a pocket. I've stuffed it with some really cool papers that you can use in your collaging or in your journal. The backing here, what I use to line the journal is actually a piece of a vintage scarf that I thrifted, and it just has the most beautiful shades of raspberry pink and minty green, and of course purple. And I felt like just by a happy accident that scarf matches the color scheme, even with the golds in this sequin trim. So one of the papers that I stuck in is this cool star chart of the Milky Way. I'm really into extraterrestrial stuff and space stuff, and usually my books have some form of mystical element to them. So there's the star chart and the amethyst in this one. This is a really cool cross-stitch pattern that's vintage from the 1960s. It's a genuine piece of ephemera, really long, really pretty. You can see how it's yellowed with age, which, you know, for those who are into conserving paper, that might be a negative thing, but those of us who are into collecting ephemera and crafting, that kind of patina or that yellowed with age look just adds to the beauty of a vintage piece. What I like about layering up papers in a pocket like this is that you get different textures of paper. And I think, although I'm not really into ASMR stuff, I am really into the crinkling of paper, like the different tactile sensations of textures of paper. And I think that's one thing a lot of us in the junk journal community have in common. Like, we really like just the aesthetics of seeing layers of papers and feeling that crinkly, like this one is really shiny and glossy, and this one is really matte, and this one has texture because it's been ink stamped. Anyway, I'll get to the good stuff. I'll show you what else is in here instead of nerding out on paper. So another ornamental clip, and this features one of the most luxurious earrings I have ever had. I actually had a whole set of jewelry like this that I ordered when I was living in India. It's actually a piece of Indian jewelry, just costume jewelry. So it was from, I think, Amazon India. And it came as a pair of earrings, a mangtika, which is the piece of jewelry that attaches into the part of your hair and kind of dangles down your forehead, and a big statement necklace. And over the years, a lot of the crystals have fallen out from the other pieces. I think somebody borrowed the necklace and I never got it back, and the mangtika broke. So I've decided to reuse the few remaining pieces that I had from this set. So this was one of the earrings, and it is spectacular. So you can either keep it where I've placed it in the journal. I kind of thought it gives a good striking statement when you open it up, or you could upcycle it yourself and turn this into a pendant or wear it like a piece of jewelry. The faux amethyst in the center is just stunningly beautiful. So there's a couple of really cool binder clip pieces you get with this one. This is an envelope that I coffee dyed with a stencil. It flips open. There's a printable from, I think it's called the Paper Cameo. I stuck a little piece of printed textured linen paper in here. This is a print from the printable shop called, the set is the Bohemian Bazaar. I'll put a link. I forget what her shop is called. Her name is Jarf, and she has, oh, Medieval Mirage. Medieval Mirage's shop. And then inside, here's a piece of cardstock that I coffee dyed with that same stencil. Really pretty. I like the pink contrasting with the blue, and I put a lot of pink and blue in this one because if you mix pink and blue, you get purple. So my way of kind of staying on theme. And then this is just a really pretty piece that I cut out from an art history textbook. So you can use that in your collages or stick it in some Happy Mail or do what you will with it. And then this paper with the beautiful motif of peacock feathers. This is a handmade paper from India, so it's a handmade cotton rag paper, and each layer of color has been individually stenciled on. So it's really, you can feel the hand of the artist in it, which I think is very special. And then where I glued the envelope down, I made a tuck spot and included a little scrap of more of that handmade paper from India. I think this is probably my favorites of those Indian papers. It just has such a beautiful pattern. It's white on the other side, so perfect for journaling or drawing a picture. You could probably even paint on this with watercolors. It's obviously heavy enough to hold color because these layers of paint have been stamped on, but just really pretty. So this page here is a vintage 1960s typewriter instruction book page. Really fun. This is a printable of a galaxy that I glued down some sari trim to make a tuck spot. More of that handmade stamped paper from India. I included a lot of samples of that in this book. I didn't realize it until just now as I go through. So lots of blank space for your writing and journaling. Vintage music paper. I love how this page turned out. It's another coffee dyed piece of printer paper, but it was a light green paper to begin with. And the way I did this one, luckily I've got one right here. I found these placemats at a thrift shop and trying to line up the, trying to line it up. There we go. Anyway, it must be slightly different or something. But anyway, it's made out of plastic. And what I do is in the baking sheet, I put down the piece of paper I want to coffee dye, put one of these over top, pour the coffee, and then just leave it overnight. And you get this beautiful design. I love how that turns out. So there's another piece from the Bohemian Bazaar printable kit, one of my favorite printable kits. Like I said, lots of space to write, draw. I made a little page out of this vintage sheet music, another one of those cool handmade Indian papers. The pink flamingos are so fun and summery. This is a card that I made as a copy of one of my Victorian calling cards that I collect. And it is just gorgeous. Even though it's from the Victorian era, the imagery on it to me looks really Art Deco. And I adore the Art Deco aesthetic. You know, the really geometric, stacked, symmetrical sort of design. But I actually found it really hilarious. I almost glued this down as a pocket, but then I thought maybe whoever buys this book might want to do something else with it. Because the sweet little sentiment in this card says, "A foolish son is a grief to his father." And I think that's just so silly. Like, imagine going to visit an old friend and you want to leave a card at their door to announce your visit, why would you tell them that? Like, do they have a foolish son and you're like subtly dissing their kid? Or do you have a foolish son and you're trying to get some sympathy for your situation? I don't know. I just think it's hilarious that this was an actual calling card and that somebody thought was appropriate to give somebody else. Anyway, I glued down the side of these 2 sheets of music paper to make it into a pocket. And as a little gift with purchase, I've stuck a packet of crystal, they're like Post-it notes, crystal-shaped sticky notes in here. And then here, I took another print of a Victorian calling card. This one is really beautiful. It has a little seashell stuffed with flowers as a floral bouquet. To me, that's very nostalgic, because in India, part of the worship ceremony you do to deities in temples, you'll offer different things like scented oils and chandan, which is like sandalwood paste. You'll offer flowers. One of the bouquets is called arghya, and it is a conch shell that you ornamentally fill with flowers, and you offer that to the deity. So I think it's really neat that some Victorian calling card artist painted something very similar to that. And it has just such beautiful things in the design. I'm very into symbology in art, so what things represent. So the seashell representing the sea and the water element, which is all about being fluid, not being too attached to the outcomes of your actions, allowing the currents of life to carry you where you're meant to be. The coral, which is also connected to that sea. The flowers, which are all about springtime and the transforming of, you know, the melting of the winter and the transformation as we enter into the warmer time of the year. And then the little butterfly, which of course represents transformation, coming out of the chrysalis, moving from a landlocked caterpillar into a winged creature that can explore other dimensions, like from the flat plane of the second dimension stuck to the ground into the third dimension of interacting in the air, at least as I see it. So really fun. By the way, people sometimes ask, like, what can you write about? Like, what if you want to make a journal entry, but you haven't really done anything in a while, or you're just not really inspired to say anything specific? You can take the elements within a junk journal and use them as prompts for what to write about. So for example, when was the last time you went out to pick flowers or to water a garden? Or when's the last time you saw a butterfly? Or what do seashells mean to you? On any given page, like write about your favorite music or your favorite playlist. What do you listen to at the moment on the music paper? Wherever there's the white spaces between the design, that's a great place to write. So yeah, journals, junk journals especially, are a great place for people to work in if you feel intimidated by a totally blank page, because you've got lots of other stuff to make you feel like you're not going to be marring a perfect white page. Like, it's meant to look messy. It's called a junk journal, not a precious don't write in this and spoil the work of art journal. So anyway, in this pocket, I've stuffed strips of Sears wallpaper samples from 1927. These are almost antique. They're very, very, very old vintage wallpapers, and they are hand stamped. I'm trying to catch the sunlight on this one because it has the subtlest little silver stripes behind the pretty flowers. This one's a little bit more plain. This one with the pretty green and gold, and then this one also has some really cool silver. So these kinds of paper strips are perfect for collage art, and people who collect vintage and antique ephemera, oops, it's crumbling a little, will find all kinds of uses for stuff like that. So the bottom of the blue page is trimmed with some of the blue tassels. That's a page out of a book about flowers. Really pretty. There's more of a periwinkle purple coffee dyed paper. This one was not dyed using a placemat like this. It was dyed using an actual stencil. Another piece from the Medieval Mirage kit. Coffee dyed using that same stencil but on grid paper. This is a little page from an antique architecture manual from Paris from 1912. Really cool antique paper. An envelope that I coffee dyed using that placemat. In here I put a fun little booklet that I made out of a green tea package. I'm trying to find ways to reuse and recycle packaging when I make junk journals. So here's a fun little craft that you can do. It only takes about half an hour, but take one of your tea packages and just kind of rip it open and use it as the cover for a little junk journal. So I did a little collaging with paper scraps on the cover, stuck some blank paper so you can write on it. I tried to match the greens to the greens, so a little Indonesian stamp. And then I made a little belly band, the tiniest little belly band ever on the inner cover. Left a lot of blank space for writing. And then this stamp, it's in here because of all the purple on this building, so it goes with the purple book. But if you're not a fan of Nixon, you can just cut him off and use that in a collage or a collage over him. If you're not a fan of Nixon. Seriously, who is a fan of Nixon? I don't know. I just think for the funny factor, it's fun. Sometimes when you buy those big collections of stamps, a few of them will be ridiculous or offensive even. But I really like that print too. This is a piece from a 1960s dictionary book. So yeah, there's just a fun little bonus. This pretty piece of sari trim flips up and you can journal on the back of that envelope. Really pretty light blue coffee dyed paper. And this is the center of the signature. So here's just a pretty embroidered flower. It kind of reminds me of a snowflake that I cut out from some pretty fabric. And then where I sewed in the signatures, I dangled some purple beads. This was actually an upcycled earring that came in one of those fun $10 jars from, you know, when you go to thrift shops and all their unsellable jewelry is kind of put together in a jar and you can find the coolest stuff for journals in those jars. This page I made a little tuck spot using some vintage stamps of Queen Elizabeth. Another calling card print. I love this one. It's Victorian era. She's got those really old-fashioned looking sleeves, a really girly pink bow, a girly bouquet, but how modern does her coiled snake bracelet look? That looks like the kind of thing you can go into a high-end jewelry shop today and they'd be selling it as like the latest new design. I think it's so cool. And then the other side of that envelope, I fussy cut a photocopy of one of my favorite Victorian ephemera pieces, which is this pretty vase with flowers inside it and the bird. And I just stuck it down so that it flips down for some secret journaling. So you can write something on the back of this and it just looks like it's a decoration on the envelope. And then in here, I stuck a couple of train tickets from Sri Lanka, just because they're purple. So the main theme for this very eclectic journal is just purple stuff. I'm sorry if you've been annoyed that it's out of frame this whole time, but it's hard to set up a tripod when flipping through a vertical journal like this one. So now you'll just see the other sides of a lot of these papers. This little pocket is from the paper cameo. In it, I stuck a really fun specimen card filled with amethyst crystals. So those are real little pieces of amethyst So you get the raw amethyst on the clip on the cover and some polished amethyst chips in this little specimen shaker card. So pretty. So this little belly band I stuck some craft supplies into. So here's pages from that embroidery magazine from the 60s. The same little magazine that the piece in the front cover came from. Just some extra sari trim. You can use this to make into tabs sticking out from the pages. Pardon the cat hair. Or you can glue it down to make a belly band or a tuck spot. So many things you can do. This piece, I almost glued it down to the edge of a paper to make into a tuck spot, but I'm trying to not over decorate my journals because for me, half the fun is decorating them. So I feel like whoever buys them should get some of that enjoyment. And then this is not a copy. This is a genuine Victorian calling card. This is the real thing here. Really pretty. Marshall Delos Myers, I think it says. Really pretty. So the other side of this music paper, this one I didn't glue. I left it open and stuffed a lot of things into it. So you get a page out of a book about irises. Really lovely illustrations. You get some pretty flowers in jar stickers. Doesn't that just look apothecary? Like there's flower tinctures and they're sealed up. There's something, to me, very magical about them. And here is a postcard print of one of my abstract black and white drawings. One of my favorite ways to meditate is to sit down with just a simple black pen and a white piece of paper and just without planning the composition or thinking about what I'm doing, just kind of let the lines and the dots form. And I just love the way this particular one turned out. So I printed it into some postcards and tucked one in as a little gift for whoever buys this. On the pocket on the back, I stuck another print of irises from that same iris book. Another little flip down spot for some secret journaling. This is a really cool print. It looks like pieces of jewelry. Some purple sari trim on this one. And that brings us to the end. So the very back page has, whoops, a pocket made out of some really lovely sari trim. I just adore the colors in this one. They're soft, they're kind of like purples and pinks and steels on a neutral background. And if you look beneath it, you see kind of the other colors that were part of the scarf that I lined this with. And then I just made a print on linen paper of some samples of antique vases. So you can use that, you can write a letter or do some journaling or some notes to self on the back, or you can cut these out and use them like stickers or like elements of a collage. Get creative and have fun. Junk journals are meant to be written in and messed up and enjoyed. So I hope whoever buys this one will really love it. Thank you so much for watching, and you can expect to see some more creative things very, very soon. I don't think I'll ever get back onto, well, I should never say never, but I don't think I'm going to be uploading a new video every Sunday again. I got a little overwhelmed, and I think I was over ambitious when I thought I'd be able to do a new journal every week. So you can expect videos once in a while, at least one journal a month, I would say. But yeah, I hope you had fun with this one. I hope 2023 has started out as a wonderful year for you. I wish you love, light, creative fulfillment, journaling, crafting fun. You can find a link to where you can purchase this book if you want to claim it as yours in the video description below. Let me know what you think of it. I would love to hear what kind of journals you're working on, what kind of crafts you're up to. And yeah, I look forward to chatting with you in the comments. Much love and bye for now.